So let's look at how to come up with a pop style rhythm guitar part. Now, really simply, pop music is such a broad genre, it can mean so many things, because all it means is popular music. And what's popular here in the 20s, the 2020s might not be what was popular in the, well, obviously not going to be what was popular in the 1970s. And what was really popular in the 1980s might not sound very much like what was really popular in the 2000s. So it's so broad. But what it does mean is appeals to loads of people. If it's going to be widely popular, it has to appeal to lots of people. That means not too niche, not too specific, not too aggressive, not too depressing, nothing too extreme one way or another. So we want to avoid all that intensity we have with the rock strumming with loads of down strums and mix it up with some down and up strums. That's going to give you a much more user-friendly, listener-friendly approach. So the chord progression we're using today goes A minor, E minor, D minor. And we're going to mix up our down and up strums really, really simply with just a down, down, up to begin with. It doesn't get much simpler than that. Let's have a listen and see how this works. Of course that does the job, it's got the right kind of feel for a pop song, but it's not going to get you loads of marks and it's not going to win you too many gigs because it's so simple. Let's push it a bit further along the bar. Now, a pro tip is if you're going to struggle to change between chords, which is likely at a very early stage, which is what we're looking at right now, don't strum all the way to the end of the bar because it's just going to give you very, very little time to move from one chord to the next. But the good news is I've got a great utility pop strumming pattern which I reckon you can use for near enough any pop song which is in the time signature of 4/4. Again, that's all we're looking at the moment, and it's this. It goes down, down, up, down. It's a really, really common one. I play loads of tunes with this rhythm, and yeah, it's simple yet effective. Have a listen. Here's how it goes. Perhaps you noticed what I'm going to now include as my next pro tip is that I used the gap at the end of that beat that the drums and the bass were doing to give myself a little bit of extra time. Rather than just strumming along and ignoring what the rest of the band are doing, I heard a little gap at the end of the bar. So down, down, up, down, and then muted it. Gives it a little bit more character, gives it a little bit more in common with the rest of the track. It's going to sound effective. Down, down, up, down is what we were playing there, and just ties in with that track nicely. All of your pop folk players and singers of the 60s and 70s, your Bob Dylans and all those kinds of guys, would use rhythms an awful lot like this. And then right to the 80s, listen to, say, Huey Lewis and the News, Stuck With You, great track. One of those soft rock-ish pop bands who really straddle genres, and there's strumming guitar in there. More recently, people like Katie Tunstall, Ellie Goulding, major pop stars who write and play pop music, but do have guitar strumming parts along too, play them live as well. Then yeah, that's a really good reference. Go and have a listen to those tunes and come up with some more ideas of your own, but you're going to be mixing down strums and up strums to play strumming ideas for in a pop style. But let's come up with some pop riffs. Does pop music have riffs? Well, yeah, it does. A riff is just something which goes round and round and repeats itself and is a sort of a recurring feature. We might also call it an ostinato, which might be a better term to describe what we're going to be doing, which is looking at isolating just the top two strings of any of these chords. So the top two strings of my A minor chord, check out the diagrams over that side, the top two strings of the A minor chord is the E and the C. The next bar is the same, the E and the C on those top two strings. When the E minor chord's happening, it's the E and the B on the top two strings. And then for the D minor, the first and then the third fret, an F and a D. Now we don't even have to hold the whole chord down, we can just hold down the note we need. Yeah? And alternating from one string to the next just keeps rocking first string, second string, first string, second string. Just gives you a nice repetitive pop riff. It's going to sound something like this. again supports the song, sounds pretty good, but is quite basic. So let's try and move the idea on a little bit and add in a rhythm, add in a feature of rhythm playing, which became really popular in the 80s and in fact was popular in the 70s. It went from funk music into 80s pop. Oh, it's almost like a running joke. All 80s pop guitar riffs do something like this, is by palm muting, and your right hand wants to just lie your palm right against where the strings meet the saddles. Yeah, the saddles are the bits that they sit on, that's why they call it a saddle. Yeah, resting your hand along there will just give you this nice, slightly muted sort of sound, a little bit more percussive. Now, if your hand's too far back across here, the strings will ring out as if nothing was happening. And if you have your hand too far along the string, you just won't hear any of the notes. So make sure it's sat right there where the strings meet the saddles, and then you're going to get this cool slightly percussive effect, which is really, really common in pop guitar parts. And let's also just develop the rhythm a little bit, listening to the bass and drums, always listening to the drums as our sort of main motivating feature for what's our rhythm going to do. Don't think too hard about it. What pops into your head when you hear those drums? Here's an idea, slightly developed rhythm using that palm muting technique for a pop riff. And listen to any 80s pop for this kind of thing. Down Under by Men at Work has got this kind of thing. Everybody Wants to Rule the World has a really cool sort of repetitive guitar melody riff going on in there. So yeah, check out those, and yeah, loads of other tunes from the 80s in particular are good examples of that. That is how you play rhythm guitar in a pop style. At least it's a good starting point, but check out some of those references and see how they go. Yeah, good luck.